everybody. It is 11 a.m. and I'd like to welcome everybody to our webinar today. I'm Kate Mosley with TimeWise Financial. And, we meet with clients every day who have a lot of questions about planning for care as they age. And, many of them want to stay at home for as long as they can. So we thought this might be a great time to talk about what aging in place versus facility care really looks like. And so we're excited to have Brian Mitchell from Silver Companions Compassionate Home Care with us today. And as we are talking to Brian, if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. So welcome, Brian.
Good morning, Kate. Good morning, Kate. Great to see you. Really happy to be here today.
So, what I'd like to do is maybe start a little bit with, how you got started in this business, how long you've been in business, and how a company like yours works with folks to help them if they would like to age in place.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just get started and tell you a little bit about, how, what it is that we do. And, thanks so much for the opportunity. Great to see you. Hopefully we'll add something of value to what it is we're trying to do today. But my wife, Leslie, and I started Silver Companions with challenges with our family, first in Florida, and then now with mine in Georgia. As I just mentioned, we could not find at the time a company that we felt we could trust in such a way that we needed them to, which would have been very helpful, like checking in on a regular basis, keeping Leslie's grandmother engaged, get her out of the house if possible, keeping her on track and reminding her to take her meds, doing some simple things to improve her life. If we know now, of course, we've done things differently. Because of these challenges, we chose not to just buy a franchise and to try to learn from a caregiving perspective from the ground up. Which means we have the practical knowledge. We're both caregivers before starting our in-home care company over a decade ago. We're licensed by the Georgia Department of Community Health to provide companion sitting services and personal care, and are blessed to have about 60 employees working right now, just to serve mainly Cobb, Cherokee, North Fulton. We can serve 9 counties in the state of Georgia. Imagine trying to do that in a massive staffing shortage right now. Not so easy. So those are the main areas that we concentrate on. Just because we don't serve the area doesn't mean that I can't help you. I'm happy to reach out to my resources in other areas. I've even found care for someone on Cape Cod recently, for an old co-worker I worked with, somebody else in Michigan. So I'm happy to reach out to others. Once again, we're not a franchise, and they're local and independently owned and operated. And might have gotten a glimpse of Leslie for a second. So, but she's not the one who likes to be on the camera very often. So hopefully that kind of brushed over what it is that you were asking.
Sure.
About.
Great. I think that something that I feel like you might be able to really give us a good idea about is the differences in the lifestyle of those that want to age at home or in place versus going to maybe more facility care. What kind of differences in lifestyle do you see?
Yeah, so well, those are actually kind of a couple different things, but similar. So people ask us all the time, what's the difference between in-home care and assisted living? But there are of course differences. At home care, you're in your own home, right? You have flexibility on what it is that you want to do. That's the beauty of home care. We're super flexible. We don't have set hours. We're not only going to work 9 to 5, or we're not going to only work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We can kind of design a care plan around what it is that you're looking for, how someone can best help you. And I notice also a difference in since you asked about lifestyles, a lot of people don't have long-term care insurance, right? Most of these facilities that are popping up, we call them assisted living communities, by the way. They don't like to be called facilities, but they are in fact, licensed for personal care or memory care in their facilities. So they're really great. We tend to have really good relationships with a lot of those assisted livings, especially here in Cherokee and Cobb County, right? But that being said, seems like some that had the foresight to buy long-term care insurance, they have maybe a little bit more flexibility. It is because finances aren't as much of an issue, because frankly, assisted living and home care are not cheap. They are both very expensive. So, in some cases, many of our clients don't have long-term care, so they're paying entirely out of pocket for our services. Could be there 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day at $30-something an hour. Very easy math to do. Those who had the foresight to look into maybe getting long-term care insurance may not be using it. No one wants to have to use it, but if anything, they want to have the peace of mind that's there should they need it. Long-term care insurance isn't cheap either, but the earlier you start looking, the less expensive it is. But that being said, probably 80-something% of our clients are paying out of pocket. So they may feel like they're self-insured. Maybe they talk to somebody like you, Kate, and that was part of their financial plan, right? To say, all right, we're going to set this amount aside for care, knowing that either my wife or I could potentially need, whether it's home care or care and assisted living. And they're not mutually exclusive, because many times they call us sitters in assisted livings, right? So there's more than a handful of clients that we have right now that they're living in an assisted living. Guess what? They need sitters. Maybe mom or dad's restless at night. They want to keep them from falling, or during the day, they need somebody to, give them extra special attention. That is what they call us in assisted livings, is they do call us sitters. So we do quite a bit of work in those communities right here in our backyard.
Great. Well, you kind of mentioned, what people may not really know about what, the lifestyle changes might be. Some of these facilities or communities have a lot of community gatherings and meetings and outings and things. And, what do you see are the benefits versus the maybe not so much benefit of staying at home versus being in one of those communities, as far as, lifestyle still being active?
Yeah. So, and thanks for asking that, because some have more activities than others. And we sponsor some of those activities too. Like
that's great.
this week, I'm doing 3 around here, right in Cherokee. We're doing like Price is Right at one of them, just to keep people engaged, get some different faces in there. We're doing like an ice cream social, butterbean auction. They're always going to do bingo. So you try to do, think of different ways you can get others engaged there. Maybe there might only be a handful of people that live in those communities that are actually going to come out and do the activities that are scheduled. But if it's something different, if it's a different face, a different person, you tend to get more. That is one of the good things about the assisted livings. Your meals are taken care of, right? You do have activities. You're not going to have somebody there for you one-on-one all the time. They are understaffed, but you do have the watchful supervision, the oversight at the bare minimum. Okay. And of course, if you need extra care, that could potentially be more too, but that's another story for another time. But we may even delve into that a little bit more here. So, but yeah, I think that is those are the good things about it. The bad things is that maybe not bad, but pros and cons. Cons would be you're not necessarily able to stick to your own schedule. A lot of people that were locked down during COVID, they become failure to thrive. I think we talked a little bit about, what happened, and maybe other, maybe your family and others is during COVID, they were all locked in their apartments. They're not very big, right? So it's great to have all these meals delivered to you for like a day or two, but months on end, people were not moving around. So that's where we saw really a lot of calls, people saying, hey, we're going to move mom or dad out. We're going to move them in with us and have care provided here. And then some people are moving back in. I think we're in a different world now. COVID changed the world a little bit. So, as far as that goes, we're still blessed to be super busy right now. There's home care is in massive demand, but the supply as far as CNAs go and caregivers, is not meeting up with the demand right now. And that's everywhere. That's assisted livings, that's in nursing care, that's in really the independent livings too. They're all going to be perpetually understaffed from what I can see for the near future anyway.
Yeah, we do have a huge set of the population that is aging, and I suppose that is some of the reasons why we see a lot of these communities popping up in our areas. So, unless somebody has had prior experience caring for a family member, I'm sure that there's a lot that people don't know, and probably more misconceptions out there about aging in place. So can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the biggest misconceptions with aging in place that you see, things like Medicare and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So there's a whole lot of misconceptions I talk to people about all the time. I think one of the top ones is that Medicare will pay for in-home care. Like Medicare or traditional insurance, or like that Aetna or Cigna or whatever is going to pay. It does not. Now, what it does pay for, it's going to pay for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, doctor's order for a specific task, but they're not going to stay long. They might be there 30, 45 minutes, and then they move on to their next visit, but they are there to improve your functionality. If it's an occupational therapist, improve your functionality at home or wherever you might call home, could be at an assisted living, but also, doing the exercises. And what half of physical therapy is actually doing the home exercises when no one's there. That's where we can kind of fill in the gaps for people too. So we do get that question all the time. Even if you call the 800 number on the back of your insurance card, you're going to talk to somebody and say, oh, in-home healthcare is covered. What it is, when you drill down a little bit further, it's the PT, OT, the speech, maybe an HHA coming and giving you a shower. Once again, they're not there for an extended period of time.
Okay? Well, that's really good to know for people out there. Yeah. So what about, do you see, what happens to when people say, you know what, my family's going to take care of me?
Well, there's two different ways to look at that. So that could be maybe the family can provide care, or that paid caregivers are only in it for the money or something like that. Is that what you're maybe?
Yeah, like in the strain and in other things that you have to think about when it's a family member providing the care.
Yeah, so of course, since we're not a franchise, I'm not sure about maybe some of the franchises, but we did start Silver Companions not only just to make money, because we felt you can provide better care. We started as caregivers ourselves and saw that there was a better way in many cases to help those in need. Staying out of crisis mode can help everyone involved in the decision-making process too, right? Many times people are calling us, they're in crisis mode, they're not sure where to go. Of course, planning is always better. So if you are not in crisis mode, you're able to feel more at ease about the decision-making process. You can start by laying the groundwork ahead of time. You'll have more success. And the other thing about my family's going to take care of me could be family caregivers need a break. And the more care that needs to be provided, the more taxing it can be on someone's mental state, physical state. Because care for others, you have to first care for yourselves, right? Oxygen mask comes down on the airplane, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, because what happens to you if something happens to you, you're not able to care for your loved one. So not only that, but there are a lot of things that can be done better by a professional trained caregiver, like a CNA, rather than a family member. Okay. So yes, we do get a lot of people who are family caregivers. Sometimes they're getting worn out. We just had a friend in the family. He was caring for his wife. He was burning the candle at both ends. He's had a stroke, and she's in mid-stage dementia. So they're in a little bit of a tight spot right now. So, we're happy to help point them towards the right. But I mean, honestly, it's probably she's moving into memory care, and he's hopefully going to be discharged to a nursing rehab and nursing right here in Cherokee County. but he's got a long road ahead of him. So let's try to avoid that. I mentioned staying out of crisis mode. That's one way you
Well,
can do it.
and I'm super glad, because obviously we're planners. It's what we do. And we are big believers in planning for something like this to happen. There is, a very high percentage of somebody needing care as they age. It's like up to 70% of people out there are going to need care as they age. And you're right, waiting into a crisis mode to try to navigate all of this is not the best way to go about it, and kind of not putting your head in the sand, like, well, what do we do in case this happens? Maybe it won't happen, but let's have a plan in place. And
Well,
that's
people
something
think it's not going to happen to them. That's what
Yeah.
you mean. It's not going
we're
to
gonna
happen
live
to me.
forever.
I'll be fine. And the fact is, it might. That's where, if you're not prepared, you're a little shocked when you go and you go take a tour or two up the street, and you realize that it might be $7,000 or $8,000 or more to move into one of these great assisted livings, which we talked about. They are great. There's a lot of good people in there. I have a lot of friends who work in assisted living. I do a lot of work in those, but that's where it helps to talk to a financial advisor such as yourself or Deanna, who can help guide you and have the legal documents in place, like an advance directive, a POA as well. But when you're talking about how someone can best plan for that, that's who I lean on. I lean on financial professionals like y'all and others, an elder care attorney, like those types of things. Have that stuff in place ahead of time. Have a conversation. So important to have it in writing, have it in black and white, so that's always something I probably spend more time educating than I actually do on, consultation side. We do educate them. And not only do we have good relationships with the home health companies, the hospice companies here, the assisted, the memory cares, the adult day centers, all that. So I'm happy to reach out if I don't know the answer to something. I can usually get that.
Well, that's a great resource. So what we kind of touched a little bit about the cost, I'm sure you get asked a lot of times, does home care actually cost less? People would assume that it does than a community or facility care.
Yeah, it can. And it's not going to be black and white in many cases. One thing that I've, and it still kind of holds true, if you're only comparing dollars to dollars, having full-time help in your home for about 40 hours a week is going to cost less than moving into an assisted living memory care. Okay, that's always been a general rule of thumb. But you do have full-time help. Somebody's there, like, let's say 9 to 5, 10 to 6, and then somebody else is taking the helm at it when the caregiver leaves, right? But that's only comparing dollars. So that's maybe having to move from your home, your emotional time for that. Maybe you're set up to age in place, and then here you are feeling like you have to, uproot yourself and move somewhere else, meet new people. But that's a lot of this is personal choices too. It's your personal preference. One thing that's that people also try sometimes too, is that they potentially hire private caregivers for that they do it for a cheaper price. Well, now we know everybody's wanting $17, $18 an hour at the bare minimum, right? And all restaurant I went to yesterday, they're saying, please be patient with the staff, right? So we're going to continue to see that. So as the cost for labor goes up, that's going to drive the cost for private caregivers. So one of the misconceptions is that maybe I can hire private caregivers for a cheaper price. You may be able to, but make sure you're protected by making them employees, which means taxes, workman's comp, having them sign a contract, etc.
Well, that's a great question. I was kind of asking, like, what are some of the hidden costs of aging in place? That being one of them. What happens if, they're not considered an employee? Then all of a sudden you could be at risk for, unemployment. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, we're going through this right now. Actually, we're sitting through an unemployment hearing tomorrow. The DOL is finally getting around to getting. We've sat through, I think, 6 or 7 unemployment hearings. All of them we fought because we did have the work. COVID started. Government was paying all these extra benefits. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into that. That was very frustrating for a lot of business owners. But
Sure.
that being said, this employee is going after the family. She was one of our employees before, and she started working privately for this family. I guess they passed away in May during COVID, and then now they're potentially responsible for her unemployment. And it's also, you're going to drill down a little bit further because the Department of Labor does not like it when you hire people privately anymore. They're really cracking down on that.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're protected. I can even help you with that. I have helped people with that before in the past. Make sure you have everything in writing. When you use a licensed home care company like us, all of our CNAs and caregivers are our employees. They're all W-2s. They're not 1099s. They're drug tested, background screened, checked for competency, license checked for violations. You can look up their nursing license or CNA license for violations. Also, fingerprints are coming back online. So we've gotten to be where we've fingerprinted almost all of our employees again. So that's where, the state did put that program on hold during COVID. So now that's coming back online. But, not only that, we also use a nationally accredited training institute that's called In the Know. So those of y'all that might be in hospitals or healthcare might have heard of that. We can get a caregiver all different types of training. For example, like Parkinson's, stroke, Lewy body dementia. Maybe they worked with somebody a long time ago who had whatever. Maybe they had a stroke, but they can't remember. We can give them a refresher there too. We've done this for families too. If somebody is a family caregiver and maybe they feel like they need more training, we can send them these same training modules that our caregivers go through. You cannot fast forward past them. You have to pay attention, and it tests you at the end. And if you don't get at least 80%, you have to retake it. So that can be super cool for some people. But it is more of it's going to be a video form. Maybe you're gonna it's going to show you some tricks at the end. But we also can have, because we have a hospital bed, we have a whole training center here on the other side where we can observe. We can provide them tips and tricks too. We did have a lady that came in last week. She wanted to see the best way she could transfer her husband. So we can also show you that. So it's not only about home care for those. Great.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about a consultation with you? What would that look like if you were to come to do a consultation?
Yeah, no, and thank you, because our consultations are free. Most of the time I'll come and do them. Sometimes Leslie, sometimes my general manager. But that being said, every initial consultation that we do is free, and we listen to the family and their loved ones about how someone may best help them. Sometimes they're not all aligned, right? Son or daughter thinks it's this way, and somebody else thinks it's this way. That's our job, to try to come up with a plan, because in fact, if the care is for dad, we want dad to feel on board with what it is that we're doing too, that we're not just unilaterally making a decision for him. So we try to get all the interested family members involved, especially at this initial one, whether it's on the phone, in person, although we do ask for one point of contact. We want to have one person who's in charge of that we can actually talk to and take the helm at it. Many times that'll be someone who's in charge of the finances or the healthcare or both. And then at the consultation, we give suggestions on how to improve the home setting too. Maybe like removing something as simple as removing some throw rugs or taping them down. Grab bars might need to be installed here. Maybe there's some wires sticking out. Have a whole home safety checklist that we go through with the family. Sometimes people feel like they don't have time for it, but I can leave it behind.
Well, I think that's great too, because I think some people may not consider that. There may have to be some, changes made in the home in order to accommodate the aging in place, that because there might be some safety issues and things of that nature. So people are going to have to kind of be aware of that there may have to be some things updated in the home.
Yeah, it's well, and also as we get going, we have to have an RN come out and do a nursing assessment. She's our RN. She's not a 1099 either. So for the oversight of care too, want to make sure we're providing appropriate services. So before care starts, she's going to come out also 90 days after every 90 days. If there's no change in condition, if there's a fall, somebody's hospitalized, she may call the family member and see if it's a good time to either come visit them or try to figure out how it is that we can provide maybe different services. We're also going to do a personal introduction of the caregiver to the client as time permits. Sometimes people don't have time. Right now, people are super busy. Like I said, we happen to have great resources and relationship with home health, assisted living communities, memory care, adult day centers, hospice, palliative care. Start the conversation early. And actually, people that actually do what they say they're going to do, that's very important to me. So we know a lot of these companies that we do business with, and we want to only deal with the ones that actually do what they say. Many times getting a plan in place and getting the continuity with a regular, consistent caregiver that our loved ones need really helps a lot more than you know. So, within that, I think I mentioned sometimes people think they're on board with one thing, right? Maybe the son or daughter is set. This happened very recently where I went and did a consult, talked to the daughter for a long time. She's like, yes, mom's going to need care throughout the day and we're going to get home at night and help her. I go and I talk to the mom's all on board with moving. She wants to be closer to her neighbors. She wants to participate in the activities that her friend keeps talking about at one of these assisted livings up this. So why are we even getting home care going? It was not appropriate for the time. So I was happy to make the introduction to one of the assisted livings, and she's there now. And she's having a great time. So it's not only about home care; it's about how we can best help people right here.
So there's a question that popped up in the chat. I think it's a great one. Do the clients stay with the same caregiver from your company throughout their time with you? Or
I believe I only touched on that, and I mentioned continuity. So when I mentioned continuity, it's better the whole way around, right? It's better for the client, patient, resident, whatever you want to, whatever they are, right? It's going to be a lot better for them because they're going to have the same person. It's better for us, easier for scheduling. It's better for the caregiver. That's just a win-win-win situation. Of course, with some of these right now, us being in a massive staffing shortage, some of these shorter shifts, like, 4 hours, 5 hours at a time, can be a lot harder to keep the continuity. Seems to be the sweet spot, at least like 8 hours a day. Seems to be where you're going to get much better continuity right now. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. But that's just kind of where we're at.
And then do you do like periodic check-ins with the clients to make sure that everybody's healthy, happy? What kind of, is there like a protocol for that?
Yeah, a couple things we do. One, I think we probably over communicate here, but that's especially at the beginning, right? You want to see how things, we call after the first shift, see how things went, see how call the caregiver too. But not only that, we use a company called Home Care Pulse. And what they do, and I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning either, but what they do is they call current employees, they call past employees, they call current clients, and they call past clients. And it's a third-party survey company to see that how we did or how we're doing.
Oh, okay.
So, and I don't think I did mention this at the beginning, but we're happy, and it's on our Facebook page, it's on our LinkedIn, it's on our web page. But we not only won the provider of choice and the employer of choice for 2022, we're also in the top 100 in the entire nation in the leadership of that. So So there's only
Fantastic.
2 companies in the entire state of Georgia, and we're one of them who's won the top 100 in experience award. Which
That's
is
fantastic.
Yeah, and so, and also, by the way, that was all during COVID, right? Because this is all for
Yeah.
2022, so some of these numbers were compiled through 2021 going into 2022.
Mhm.
So how awesome is that? So
That's great. Well, Brian, I am so happy to have had you here today. Thanks for joining us. And I'm hoping that everybody out there found this incredibly helpful. Brian, what's a good way to contact you and your company? You have a number or a website that they can go to?
yeah, you can go either one. Our office is right in Town Lake, so if anybody's local, they can stop by too. We're right across from Etowah High School. But phone number is 678-494-8129. That number is going to be manned by a manager on duty 24/7, because we do in fact have people working overnight, right? Early in the morning. So you're going to get a manager on duty by calling that number. Please try not to call at 2 o'clock in the morning, because but we do get those. Of course, emergency, please dial 911, that type of thing. But there are people working, they have questions in the middle of the night. They can also go to our website, silvercompanions.com. Okay.
Great.
We did just purchase, we were able to kind of get the silvercompanions.com, which our website, you go to silvercompanionsga or silvercompanions.com. We come right up. Okay?
Perfect.
Happy to answer any questions. I know we touched on long-term care insurance, didn't go too much into that, but that lists some of the ADLs. So it lists the 6 ADLs. So
Yes.
for you to qualify for to activate long-term care insurance, some people use that as a tool. And I think there'll be some questions that are answered that maybe we weren't able to cover them today in this 30-minute period of time.
Yeah. Well, everybody out there, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to give Brian a call, or you can give our office a call, and we'll be happy to get you in touch with Brian as well. So I appreciate everybody coming in today and joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Blessings to you. We'll see y'all soon. Call me anything. Call me with any questions. Love to hear.
Will do. Thanks,
right.
Brian.
Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.